Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are starting at 5:32 and I want to look at tonight or tomorrow's new moon. So this chart that we're looking at here is for 9:34 a.m. Actually, I think I put in 9:35 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we have the sun and moon together at 12 degrees of Pisces. So there's so many dynamic things happening on this day that it makes the stillness of what a new moon normally is feel very loud. So normally the new moon is going to be let's just go over this. I feel like the repetition is really helpful for me personally, and hopefully for you also, that we started this moon cycle, the current moon cycle in Aquarius, where moon has passed out of Aquarius today on March 1st, closing out the Aquarius lunation. So right now it's 5:34 at this exact time. We're in a dark phase where we're out of the previous lunation, not quite into the next lunation. And when the sun and moon conjoin at 12 degrees of Pisces at 9:35 a.m., this will be the official end of the Aquarius lunation and the beginning of the Pisces lunation. So even as sun and moon make their exact conjunction, it still is a very dark void space that we're in, because we have not yet received the information of what this lunation will hold, or what this lunation is bringing to awareness. So I would like to pose a question that it's something that's been on my heart and my mind a lot lately. That question is, why do you want to know astrology? Why do you want to know how to use the tarot? And you don't need to have an answer right now. This is a question I ask myself probably multiple times a day. Why am I looking at this chart again? Why am I looking at this? Why am I constantly learning and studying and wanting to know more about the planets and what they're doing and how that impacts me and how that impacts the global world stage of what's happening? So just play with that question, and whatever your answer is, the Pisces lunation has no answer. Pisces lunation is meant to bring more questions. The Pisces lunation is also meant to dissolve the boundaries of definitions that you have created or definitions that you heard of. So if you're wanting to use astrology or tarot to have some foot up, or I don't know how they say, like to have a foot up or a leg up, I think it's called a leg up on yourself, then this phase of the moon is not for that. It's like you may think that the trick is that you're going to be constantly curious and know less and less every day. Every day. I mean, as somebody personally with 5 celestial bodies in Pisces, and an inquisitive thirst for knowledge and information, and what is the, the glue that holds everything in the universe together. I want to know that. And the more I learn, the less I know, the more confused I feel. The more that the confusion is that there is really no way of knowing the most important things that we want to know. That, that's your own journey. For me, what it's come to is that there's just this moment. So just play with that at the start of this lunation. Just play with that question. Why do I want to know this? And how, I feel like in the beginning of learning astrology, there is a lot of data. And, the more data that you can pull in, the more broad of a database that you have to pick from in the moments of life bringing questions and opportunities, and which direction do I go. The more you study, the broader your database will be, that is helpful. Just also to not get too tied up in looking for like what is the exact answer. The more you learn, the more there's going to be infinite amounts of answers. The more teachers that you study astrology from, the more expressions that you're going to notice. Okay, so I mentioned today in the Telegram group about, this is called a Kal Sarga Yoga. Basically, when all the planets are sandwiched between the South and North node. So that for some reason, that's just really coming up to me right now. So I want to just make a note of that. You can see that all the planets are sandwiched between the North and the South node. And basically, there is not really a basic definition for this, but the most easy basic definition is that everything is sandwiched between the past of our samsara, our karmic patterning and conditioning, and unresolved desires that we have for progress and becoming something better, which is the North node. So when all the planets are sandwiched between these two things, in Vedic astrology, it's considered to be very inauspicious, meaning that there is this feeling of like, you can't get away from yourself, from your past patterns, your addictions, your karma, and that feeling of longing for better, to be better, the desire for going toward true north, it's just agonizing. And it feels like that. For me personally, anyway, I feel like it really does feel like that. So at the onset of the new moon, we also have Venus, Mars, conjunct Pluto. So the way this is going to go is that Mars will first make the conjunction with Pluto on March 2nd, late night, March 3rd, early morning. 6 hours after that, Venus will make that exact conjunction with Pluto. So they're not exactly going into it together, but pretty close. Can this sound also apply to a natal chart? Erica, so this, I went down a rabbit hole today because when I was in the Astrology Council meeting in January, I had noticed this the morning before our council meeting, and somebody else brought it up. And then we all were like, oh yeah, we noticed that this is happening, and that this sandwich is actually happening until April, I want to say like April 6th or so, when somebody's going to creep out. Who would that be? I can't remember off the top of my head, but somebody's going to pop out of this. And then there'll be more planets popping out of it. So when I looked this up, what it said, and this is from Vedic astrology, I couldn't find anything because in Vedic astrology, they care a lot about Rahu and Ketu, the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. which is the north and south node. And what they say is that if somebody was born, like if you know people who are having babies at this time, this alignment is going to be very impactful for them. This feeling of can't quite get over myself, south node, can't quite get into what I feel my calling is, north node. It's this like, oh, this agonizing feeling of kind of being stuck in a way between the karmic patterning and conditioning and that feeling that we all have, a feeling that I'm here to do something great and big. And so, we're constantly either going toward that, which is going toward north, or being intimidated by that feeling and staying closer to south. So yes, it does apply to a natal chart. I've never seen it. And also my teacher, who's been doing this, he's old, like 70 something, and been doing astrology for years. And he also was like, I vaguely remember something about this, but I can't remember what it's called or what it's for. So it's not something that I had ever seen. And my teacher also seemed like he was kind of oblivious to it too. So yeah, it is really an interesting thing to look at and to be living in it right now, especially between Scorpio and Taurus with Uranus near the north node. It feels like we're being cooked in our, that karmic past patterning and conditioning, and that big, great, like the endless, infinite possibilities of what we can do on Earth, with Earth, and then being pressurized. And then as the north node meets Uranus, I think that's in the early summer. I want to say it's in the summer when these two conjoin, that we have this explosion of bursting. That's my imagination of it. Okay, so let's look at this up here with Mars and Venus making their conjunction with Pluto. So Venus has made, was it three conjunctions so far with Pluto during the retrograde cycle of Venus in Capricorn? No, two. And so this will be the third for Venus. It's kind of like a completion of interactions between Venus and Pluto. And having Mars going through, the Mars-Pluto conjunction is like a whole thing in itself, because a lot of astrologers are relating this to war. And what's the opposite of negotiation? Escalation of conflict, because Mars is the planet of war. It has to do with what I want, and there's an immaturity that goes along with Mars, and that's not to say anything wrong with immature. It just has this like teenage excitement of wanting to go do and take and have whatever it feels that it wants. So, and having the strength and the vitality to go physically do the thing to get what it wants. That's Mars energy. So Mars meeting up with Pluto, who is known as the Lord of the underworld. And I keep seeing this flash of like, we don't really know Pluto. So just to keep that in mind, like with whatever you read or hear about Pluto, keep in mind that Pluto will remain a mystery. Pluto is like the goddess Kali. While we know the overarching theme of what Kali represents, the dark goddess, the mother of everything, we might say Jagat Yoni, which means the universal mother. And that dark almost obsessive love that a mother has for her child or for her children. So we don't know the extent of what that really means, because part of it is a deep inward process that remains covered and hidden like a wound. So just to keep that in mind. But we also know that there is death, rebirth, regeneration. Pluto has to do with the lineage, with the ancestors, with the generations. Pluto also has to do with death, the money that comes from death, the not just money, but the property. So like, you know, if you have an inheritance or something like that, Pluto has to do also with that. So there's a finance aspect to Pluto. Pluto is the khanda, which is the bulb of, so you might know this as the Dantian. You could say also the Svadhisthana chakra, which is known in the West as the sacral chakra or the second chakra. Pluto has to do also with that regenerative life force energy. There's sexuality in there. There is also repressed emotions. So the way that emotional energy is translated into financial energy, what I like to call emotional currency, and how that is related, or it is actually financial currency. So Mars and Pluto coming together has, what I'm seeing now is my cryptocurrency going upward. I don't know why, but that there is some force that's being exerted, and what is wanting to happen with emotional energy, financial energy, and a death rebirth of the Capricorn domination and control, patriarchal systems of governance of our resources, the practicality of what we need in day-to-day life to build our foundations. That's all Capricorn things. So Mars and Pluto coming together are fighting. It's like physical action being geared toward the destruction and the regeneration of our generation, which generation is also a Capricorn word. So those two coming together makes me think straight away to, is there really a war happening? And if there is, what's it about? And what's behind the headlines? What's behind the cover story? What's really going on? While Pluto being involved, we may never know the truth. Pluto is secrets. We may never know the truth about what's happening or why it's happening. But we do know that something huge is happening, and there is a sense of war because Mars is the planet of war. A few hours after Mars and Pluto have their conjunction, Venus will come to Pluto and make that last conjunction. Well, Venus is the planet of treaties, of negotiations. Venus is a relational energy. So joining Pluto, there could be a destruction, a death of previous treaties. There could also be a rebirth, a regeneration of treaties, a renewal of treaties. Venus is pleasant. It's like bringing in your pretty and smart friend to smooth over a conflict. when I worked at a spa, when there was a client was unhappy with their services or whatever the thing was, the owner of the spa would always bring me in because of the Venusian quality of being able to mediate and to smooth over like a Palo Santo stick to make the situation more pleasant and easy. So with Venus coming up to join Pluto right after Mars, it seems like there is sort of a smoothing over energy. Okay. So this is all right in the mix of the new moon. The moon will be just slightly past the sun as all of these things, what is called the Venus-Mars saga is going on, merging with Pluto, having this whole experience. Now, what is, will you feel it? Will it be something that you notice? This is a question that just came up today in our astrology council meeting. Just want to see if there's any questions. No, okay. And the answer that comes to my mind, will we feel this? Will we feel the Pluto, Venus, Mars thing happening? You might not. You might not necessarily feel it, but because it is an opportunity for you to work with the planets, this is happening. So it's an opportunity for you to work with the planets. I have a ritual that I'll offer at more toward the end of this episode to make an offering to Pluto, which is something that we don't usually do that unless we're specifically working with Pluto. We're in a Pluto initiation cycle. I'm considering this Venus-Mars because that is our Venus and Mars. That is a very top energy for us. It's so much significant as much as the sun and moon and Mercury. So we'll do that in a little bit, making an offering to Pluto. And then just, will you feel it? Yes. If you have something around 20 something, meaning you have points, your ascendant, your descendant, your midheaven, your home and roots, those are the points. Or if you have personal planets, sun, moon, Mercury, your Venus or Mars, or your Jupiter or Saturn, possibly you would feel those two. If they're within, let's say, like a 5-degree orb of 27 degrees of Capricorn. Whatever you have at 27 degrees of Capricorn around that general area, you will feel, because of the fact that Venus and Mars are going through something huge right now. And if it's on something personal for you, yes, you will feel it. And depending on what house that's in, that will determine where in your life that's going to be happening. I also just want to make a quick note that Vesta is not far away. Vesta is just 1 degree away. Vesta having to do with our sacred work. Vesta is known as the temple priestess, she who knows the incantations or the prayers, she who knows how to use the natural patterns in nature to make magic. Magic meaning bringing the elements of earth with the intention to do an action, to make something like a miracle magic. It's basically that, taking the intention and taking the elements of the earth and taking an action with your intention to make the miracle, to make magic. Okay, so there's this also, another very potent timing that we are in, with Mercury being exact to Saturn. Now we're already feeling this today, the time of recording on March 1st. We're already feeling this because they're very close right now. So there's a couple of things that you might notice. I feel like it's inevitable. A couple of ways I've heard this be said when Jupiter and Mercury are coming together. One of the things is where Our thoughts about reality and actual reality have a collision, and it's in the sign of Aquarius, which to me feels like bringing that big vision or the high ideals of Aquarius down to earth. That's already happening. That's an ongoing experience with Saturn in Aquarius. The high ideals for humanitarianism, transhumanism, that is an Aquarius thing also, to bring those down to earth, to materialize them with Saturn. Then with Mercury right there, we're having a cognition about it. We're understanding the concept of what that really means to bring it down to earth, to materialize it. With Mercury and Saturn together also, it kind of feels like there is a urge to think in that Aquarian way, and also a sort of contraction. So that really what that looks like in my inner visual or my first eye visual is basically, it seems like we're all learning to channel. That's what it looks like. It looks like basically zooming into this broad picture perspective that is cosmic consciousness, pulling it down into a concept and then being able to materialize it with that actual real work of Saturn. So we might be having all these ideas and visions, but unless we sit down and do the actual work, this has been something that's afflicting me right now so much, that I have all these great ideas and then being able to actually put them down and make something of it. That's what we're being challenged with right now with this. Same. Well, also because I feel like because this is so close to a personal, it's on my midheaven, like this Mercury Saturn conjunction is within 10 degrees of my midheaven. So there's so much work ideas coming through, and it's just like I feel so restricted, or like I just can't, I'm like, it's not going to be as good. I can't do it. There's all this like contraction around, it feels I know it's going to break through though. I know that there is a breakthrough that is happening also. I also want to point out this factor between Saturn and Uranus. While they are, okay, so they're 8 degrees away from their 90-degree angle, I still feel like this, because it's going to come back again to an exact 90-degree angle in October, I feel like we still are being worked by this in a lot of ways. This challenge between the contraction, the contractual agreements of Saturn, and the wildness of that Promethean energy of Uranus. Okay, one more thing I want to point out is that Moon will be making an exact conjunction with Jupiter very soon after the new moon, which is at 9:35 a.m. Moon will shortly after make an exact conjunction with Jupiter. So without the refinement of what I'm getting ready to say, you could consider this a Jupiter new moon, because they're only 2 degrees away from each other. I will refine this for us though. So from a predictive perspective, this could look like delays in war negotiation. So Erica, I think you're talking about the Saturn Mercury conjunction, giving us delays in war negotiation. Oh, with Uranus. Until November. Holy shit. Wow. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, so November is when that exact 90-degree happens again. And this really could be, the tension is still there between Saturn's structure and the traditions and the government, and Uranus wanting freedom, radical expansion, individuality. And the tension is still there, and it is actually going to be increasing and becoming more contracted again, more focused in November when they have that final 90-degree exact point. So, wow, this could definitely be related to what war, the spread, like it looks like when that bomb goes off and there's like this spread of war where everything that is attached to what is being fought over and fought about, and how, you know, government structures and monetary systems and all these systems, how all of those things are going to be rearranging themselves until November. So yes, that is such a great insight. Oops. That is a really good observation and something to really consider. Okay, so without the refinement of looking at Jupiter, just looking at this as a three stellium, Sun, Moon, Jupiter at the new moon. So Jupiter is considered a benefic. It has a beneficial, jovial, lighthearted, expanding energy. Jupiter is in Pisces. Pisces being that dissolution of boundaries, the limitless empathy, love, compassion. Jupiter in Pisces makes this really numinous, undefined feeling of kumbaya in a way, which sounds nice. There's another side of Pisces. There's another side of Neptune. So we can see Neptune here getting in the mix. That is unknown. And like what we were talking about with Pluto earlier, there is a piece of Pisces and Neptune that I feel we are getting more clarity about. We're getting to know some of that mystery, and whether or not you're able to see it as a Piscean or a Neptunian energy, that's the thing. So what I'm going to try to express what I'm seeing with this. Where do I start? Let's start here with Jupiter. So Jupiter expands. Now we have a new moon in Pisces. This is the start to a lunation cycle in Pisces, where we would potentially be able to know more of those mysteries of Pisces. This is our opportunity. When you go into Pisces, the dissolution can be very scary. There is a dissolving of the I. The I. Who am I? What am I? Where do I end? Where do you begin? There is a dissolution of that. You go into the dark, you dissolve into the dark, and you feel like you are dissolving, like you are dying. There is a death associated. We might call this for the pleasantry of familiarity. Ego death, a death of the I, the self. So while there's so many nice things to say about Pisces, there is this piece of Pisces where you dissolve, you die. There is no, the things that your likes, your dislikes, your attachments to things, what you love, what you hate, it all kind of bleeds onto the paper. It's a writer's block. Pisces is the ultimate writer's block. I have nothing to individuate my sense of self. I become, my dad used to say, a fart in the wind. You just go everywhere at once. There's no definition to what is mine and who I am. So Jupiter at this new moon kind of gives us that. And it's very confusing. It's very disorienting. And then, so a few hours after the new moon, Moon and Jupiter will become exact for a short amount of time. But this will be a real initiation into what this lunation cycle is about. So be looking for that, you know, just be looking for it. I would even say give yourself some time to be in meditation on that day. Today's Tuesday, so that would be Wednesday morning, 9:30, 9:35, all the way up till like noon or 1. Give yourself some time to be reflective and allow yourself to dissolve. Allow what you think you are about, what you like, what you don't like, who you are, all those I statements, self-referencing that we constantly make when we're talking to each other and you hear your friends say blah, 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 and you're like, oh, that reminds me of me. Or, oh, I think about this. Or, oh, there's a constant self-referencing that we do that is really incapacitating, because there's so much more to this whole sea of consciousness that this Pisces new moon with Jupiter gives us an opportunity to dissolve the reference, our reference point to who we are, who we think, who we believe ourselves to be, is allowed to dissolve. Okay, let me talk a little bit because Jupiter and Neptune are building into this once in a lifetime conjunction that they're having, and we're probably starting to feel that now. And this is not part of the new moon. This is part of something that is culminating. It's growing like a snowball rolling down a hill. It's getting bigger, and it will have its biggest point in April. So I actually have this written down. I took a note on a run one day. The 27th of April, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune make a conjunction. So the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, I believe, is before the 27th of April, and Venus will join them on the 27th of April. So I do want to give a little insight into Neptune and the other side of Neptune. So, you know, I love Neptune. I also, what I've been seeing is with Jupiter and Neptune coming together, is us being able to really feel an overwhelming amount of Neptunian energy, which is a huge death. It's even more so than Pluto, because Pluto wants to regenerate energy. Neptune just wants it to end. Neptune just wants, I had a dream once of dying in the ocean, and the death of myself, where everything turns to light and there's this peaceful feeling. Neptune is that peaceful feeling that happens at death, where you see the light and your body softens, you surrender your sense of self, you float into the abyss. There's a lot with Neptune that has to do with surrendering your sense of self. So with these two planets coming together, making their coupling, I feel like we will have the opportunity to experience this state of surrender. It is scary. It is. It feels, the fullness of what love means. The most intense, horrendous things that we can imagine, that is also part of the full sea of consciousness, of what you might call God or source. That things that we're unable to imagine would be good. Neptune dissolves the boundaries between good and bad, or evil and divine, or heaven and hell. Neptune dissolves everything that gives us a sense of separation or a duality. So with this upcoming Jupiter Neptune conjunction, also we're going to be feeling this all month, because Sun is going to be making the conjunction with Neptune. Pisces, Sun and Pisces making a conjunction with Neptune, where it's all building up into this: how much can you love yourself through all the things that you consider to be horrible, miserable, gross, ugly, and all the things that you find desirable and pleasant and wonderful about yourself, your life. And when you look out of your eyes into the world, what you're picking out is, I like this, I don't like that. This is like a leveling. Okay, so I think that is enough. If you have any questions, I would love to hear them. I'm gonna take that off. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this Pluto offering. So what I saw as the new moon ritual, which I'm going to be doing. Tonight is Shiva, so I'm staying up all night meditating and chanting and probably doing weird things, and hopefully going to record. There's a dance, like this movement of Shiva that describes the 5 acts of Shiva. I'm going to record that, and I want to add that into the Venus Mars class that is happening. So I'm going to be very busy tonight with all of these weird things that I'm going to be doing. And the Pluto ritual that came to mind while I was going through in my mind, like what I'm going to be doing tonight, is to make an offering. How often do we offer to Pluto? It's like standing at the volcano and throwing the Virgin in, or, offering the Virgin where she hopefully wants to go in. This is what I'm seeing. It's like, don't offer like, oh, my rage and my depression and my, like if you're taking things to the Goodwill and you just take things that you don't want because they're not, you don't like that, you can't get any money out of them, and it's not like that. This offering to Pluto is going to be something that you do love, something that represents that what you have known as your desire, Mars, and your longing, Venus. This flow of outward expression where you jump up and go out and want to do a thing, and the inward flow of Venus, where you are open to receiving things that you find pleasurable and beautiful. So these two energies, that is your sexual energy. That is the desire to go out and get the thing that Venus is longing for. So tonight, sorry, not tonight. This would be more appropriately done the late night of the 2nd, early morning of the 3rd, when Mars and Venus are closest to their conjunction with Pluto, to make an offering to Pluto. I'm not exactly sure what that is going to look like for everybody, even for myself, I'm not exactly sure what that offering looks like, but it is giving, I feel like it is taking something that you like. You may have an attachment to it and offering it. Either those beautiful crystals, I'm seeing that now, like, oh, which crystal that I love so much that I'm going to bury back in the earth and give it back as an offering to Pluto. Oh, I know what it is. Oh, I have this beautiful necklace. I love this necklace so much. It's beautiful. When I was with Kailash's dad, he gave me this beautiful green heart. The stone is called Veracite. It's very expensive, and it's wrapped in real gold, and it's shaped like a heart not by shaving. It was just like a heart-shaped semi-raw Veracite stone wrapped in gold. And then I put beads of Veracite, chrysocolla, and I think it was pyrite or something that looked like gold, but it's not. And I've had that necklace for so long, but I cannot wear it because it just is so hard for me still to really process that relationship and the loss of myself in that relationship, or what I thought that I was. And that relationship showed me that I wasn't what I thought I was. So what I'm going to do is take that beautiful, very expensive necklace and offer that to Pluto, deep down past the owl that I buried in my backyard, and leave it there. So you may find some ideas from that. What a way to give back to the earth. Yes, and to also be free of something that is valuable and treasured, but also has both the polarity of my Venus and Mars kind of wrapped up in it with sexuality and intimacy and confusion around all of those things, and then to be able to offer that, really give, I mean, I feel like I'm going to cry just thinking about it because I've had it for so long, but not even in my possession. It's like tucked away in a box somewhere. So really pulling that out and making that as an offering, I feel like will be very powerful. So find your thing. Yes, ultimate cord cutting. Find your thing. What is it that gives you that feeling of what I've just described, that you don't really probably want to do it, but it is a Pluto offering. Pluto will take things. Just so you know, Pluto will take things. Just because I'm doing this offering doesn't mean that I might not be having something taken from me that I maybe wanted. I'm prepared for that. And I say that humbly, knowing that I can't really be prepared for what a Pluto initiation could bring. And this is personal for me because it is an exact opposition with my natal Jupiter. So let's see what happens. All right, I think that's it. If there's any questions or anything like that, thank you so much for coming. Let's stop the recording. Are you sure you want to stop?